great doctor is from the area. So when you're from the area, you grow up and you're taught to root for Philadelphia teams. And you're also taught to hate certain teams and certain specific players. And he shares a name with one of the most hated basketball players in Philadelphia, mind you, of all time, and Kevin McHale of the Celtics. Which is funny,
because, Doc, I don't know if you know this or not, but your YouTube video of Markelle Fultz a couple of weeks ago is approaching 10,000 listeners, and there's people in the comments section saying, I don't care what Kevin McHale says about the Sixers.
Yes.
Yeah, that's not the first time I got a little hate for the name Kevin McHale. Actually, my favorite one was when I was taking care of Reggie Wayne with the Patriots. He saw my name tag. He said that was the only reason why I got into Harvard was just because of my name. But I let him know that at least I could get dinner reservations in Boston. Everyone hated him because he just got over there from the coast.
That's hilarious.
And by the way, you're right, because not only is he Dr. Kevin McHale, he was a assistant team trainer with the Patriots and the Bruins and the Celtics, correct?
With the Red Sox, Red Sox Bruins and Patriots. That's right.
Red Sox, Bruins, and Patriots.
Unbelievable.
So Kevin McHale working in Boston, but he's a Philadelphia guy,
Absolutely.
Philly fan.
Representing
and he's brought to you by Cape Regional Health System and Dr. Kevin McHale with Penn Orthopedics and Cape Regional Health System. The best of both worlds for a healthier life. For an appointment, call 609-463-CAPE or visit us at caperegional.com/orthopedics. So I do want to ask you, because you served on a medical staff with the Patriots, and I don't know if you've been hearing a lot about this. There's been a lot of negativity towards the Eagles staff. And now I don't expect you to go blasting these guys or anything, but is that common that there's things like this that happen where, full team medical staffs sometimes get the heat for things like an injury as high profile as Carson Wentz?
Yeah, unfortunately, it's not uncommon, and it's not uncommon not just the medical staff, but coaches, general managers. Someone has to take the blame. When something happens in these at these pro level, especially with these like big franchise players, everyone's looking for the person to blame and say, what could we have done differently to not get here? And sometimes the medical staff are the people that are kind of taking the fall. Unfortunately, a lot of times, with the data they have available, they're making the best decisions for the players and trying to put them in, make sure they're safe, but also trying to optimize their ability to play and perform for the team and optimize the team's chances of winning and kind of working all together. And I would say with my experience up in Boston, it really is a team of kind of everyone. It was a real big team that worked together. The coaches, the docs, the trainers, the players, everyone kind of worked together. And I don't know what the Eagles locker room is like. I'm not sure if there's this animosity within there, or if this is just something that we're talking about on the radio. But usually it is very much a team approach. Everyone's working together to make sure that those players are at their peak level of performance, because that is what keeps everybody happy, right? If the players are as healthy as possible and the best level of fitness and able to perform at the highest level, everyone's happy. So typically the guys inside the locker room are all working together, and sometimes everyone on the outside is kind of trying to blame people and kind of put one against the other.
Doc, Carson Wentz, Doug Peterson revealed that he has a stress fracture that could take about 3 months to heal, yet called him questionable for the game last week. Now, he was obviously ruled out, but they've decided not to put him on the injured reserve list. So if you're telling me he has a 3-month injury and he's not going on the injured reserve, now they're kind of saying, well, some new information has come across, and, I guess there potentially is a chance that he plays. How are you reading into what this injury could be for Carson?
All right, so that question can be a little bit complicated to answer, but the first thing is a stress fracture in the low back makes a lot more sense based on the fact that he was playing through this back soreness. There was some injury there, now there's a fracture, and all this confusion. And the reason is stress fractures of the low back are not that uncommon in football players. It's actually one of the more common reasons for a low back pain. It's a weird word.
And they just play through them? And they just play through them?
Well, what happens is you get what's called a stress reaction first. And when you get the stress reaction, there is no fracture yet. It's just a source of pain and soreness. And it actually is safe to play through if it's not painful enough where the point is they're able to perform at a safe level. The problem is with repetitive football and playing at a high level like that, that repetitive stress with hyperextension and twisting of the trunk can lead to a stress fracture. And those fractures typically do take about 3 months to heal. The catch is that if it's one side of the so when we talk about the vertebrae, the vertebrae is that bony block in the front, and then there's the arch bone that goes around. This area where the stress fracture is, a lot of times it's just on one side, and it is actually safe to play through if they're asymptomatic or at least minimally symptomatic to a point where they're able to play at a high level and they're not affected. So that could lead to this kind of strange situation where we say he's got a fracture, but he's playing, and we don't understand why.
All right, so Peterson went from saying that Wentz was feeling as healthy as ever, and then all of a sudden he has a back problem, and then you get the scan of his back. So I guess this kind of says that, hey, I'm not really feeling a lot of problems, but there may be something. You're going to say I feel healthy. Obviously, you have bumps and bruises, but they discovered the fracture, and then Peterson said that they would get the scan done, and that, all of a sudden they changed this thing here. So we've talked in the past about these transverse things. Is this possibly something that's going on there, or is that what you originally had thought it could have been?
No, so what I originally thought what could have been a transverse process would make sense if he had an acute injury, he took a hit, and had a fracture in his back. It's one of the more common fractures there. So the spondylolysis is different. So first of all, going back to that little anatomy lesson,
okay.
The bony block in the front that stacks up, there's that arch bone that goes around. The pars interarticularis is this little bony bridge that connects the one joint to the one below in the spine. And that little bony bridge can get injured and lead to a stress fracture. Interestingly, there was a study on all the guys that came to the combine a while back, and about 15% of them would have this type of spondylolysis, and 80% of them are asymptomatic. So to have this issue actually can be completely asymptomatic, and the player may not know about it if it's not bothering them. So that's actually a possibility. Now, obviously, I didn't look at any of his studies, and I can't tell you if it was there and he just didn't know about it, but it is possible. The other thing is, a lot of times, if these are treated and they don't heal, and we have what's called a non-union, where that bony bridge was fractured, they rest it for 3 months and it doesn't heal, if that player actually doesn't have symptoms, they can still get back to play and play at the same level that they did before. So even if it doesn't heal, it's still possible to get back to that same level of performance. Now, obviously, we'd want it to heal because that's better and a lower risk of re-injury down the line. So these things are actual possible scenarios. And the one other catch, too, about the whole IR thing with your franchise quarterback is that sometimes just keeping that player active may mean more to the team than the injury. Even if they know there's no way this guy's playing the rest of the season, maybe having him in the locker room for a variety of reasons may be worthwhile. And sometimes these decisions go beyond just the health of the player as well. So it's really complicated, but there's a couple of reasons why the team may decide not to put him on IR.
So when you hear a 3-month time frame here, does this suggest that that there's not a major back injury here? Because you get back injuries. I mean, that could be, you say a lot of these guys get back injuries, but the 3-month time frame, does that indicate that this is not something to be concerned with long term?
So 3-month timeline is the typical expected timeline for recovery for what's this type of spondylolysis, this type of stress fracture in the low back.
Yeah.
And that's what would be expected. You typically rest it for 3 months. It doesn't mean that you're in a brace and not doing anything, but you're avoiding those types of activities that exacerbate and put too much pressure on that area, the hard throws, the twisting, hyperextension, things like that, and allow that to heal. So for a 3-month timeline, that's completely to be expected with an acute stress fracture in the low back. Sometimes at a pro level, they can kind of cheat and get back a little bit sooner. Now, obviously, if it gets to a few months out, it's going to be off season. They're not going to be pushing them back anytime sooner because it's the off season. But a 3-month timeline would be kind of typical for this type of stress fracture in the low back.
You anticipate any scenario that we see Carson Wentz play this season?
So there's a very low chance that he's going to be playing this season. If he has a true acute stress fracture, typically they're going to rest that, allow that to completely heal, and I wouldn't imagine that he's going to be back out there this season. I think it's very, very low likelihood. As I mentioned, if it's on this one side, and there is a catch, that it can be safe to play through the injury, and we see these guys play through injuries all the time. It doesn't mean that it's the best case scenario for the healing of the fracture, but it's a possibility. Okay. I would say it's very unlikely. I think they're probably going to arrest him. They're going to allow that fracture to heal so that it doesn't give him a problem down the line in the rest of his career. But it is possible that he could play through the injury if he's asymptomatic.
Dr. Kevin McHale with our weekly injury report, brought to you by Penn Orthopedics and Cape Regional Health System. The best of both worlds for a healthier life. For an appointment, call 609-463-CAPE or visit us at caperegional.com/ortho. Orthopedics. Happy holidays to you. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. I'll be off next week, and I know the holidays are all here, and hopefully you enjoy the holidays and everything. Doc, we appreciate it.
All right, great. Thanks for having me on. Happy holidays, and I'll talk to you guys soon.